But, the thing is, look, I'm ready to go. The one thing you got to say as an entrepreneur is I don't have time to sit. Everybody wants perfect. I want progress, not perfection. I'm like, you're never going to be right to start this. If you wanted everything to be right before we grow, if I slow down, like everybody wishes, Tommy, slow down, we're going so fast. The minute I slow down, everybody slows down. We're going at the same speed.
Welcome to the Lion's Den, hosted by Lance Bachman.
Good afternoon, everybody. It's Phil Rossell sitting here in the Lion's Den today. The big cat's out of the office down in North Carolina doing some filming and working with some of our clients on their digital marketing strategies, but I'm super, super pumped to have a very, very, very special guest in the Lion's Den today. Tommy Mello, welcome to the Den.
Hey, glad to be here, Bill. Very excited to be here.
Well, I appreciate that. So what I want to do today really is, I recently heard, and I follow you on your podcast as far as the home service expert, and obviously read the book, avid reader. We'll talk about that in a few minutes as far as, reading and what it goes on. But, I'm excited because I get to bring to our audience today a little bit about some of the successes that you've obviously had. You wrote in a bestseller. You have a multi-million-dollar business. I don't think you sleep or you don't eat. You're constantly looking at sales and marketing, and hopefully we can bring some wisdom and knowledge to our people today that watch the podcast and really kind of look to say specifically what's made you successful and what are the traits that you bring back out in your organization that helped you kind of go from being $50,000 in debt to now a $55 million a year company. So, the first question I ask is, how does a kid from Michigan get to Arizona?
I'll shorten it up as sweet as possible here. My grandpa was born in 1910. He got married when he was 36. So that would have been 1946. My grandma was 22. He was from Pennsylvania, actually Scranton. She was born and raised in Detroit. And she ended up, they got married. They had 12 kids. He retired in 1977. He wanted to go somewhere warm. They moved to Lake Havasu. Half the kids, 6 of them, decided to go to the big city, which was Phoenix, when they graduated high school. And lots of people followed out there. And I ended up out here because so much family was out here. I wanted to go to Arizona State University. I wanted to see hot chicks. And I wanted to have fun. And Michigan.
Were you there the same time Gronk was there?
No.
Probably went to the same parties though, just a couple of years later.
Yeah, most likely. It's a hell of a town. I don't think I'll ever make my hometown anywhere else. I just love it out here.
That's awesome. It's interesting. We when we kind of got on the pre-show as far as just talking about background, we run in the same circles with knowing a lot of the same people in the industry, and I've been following you obviously for a long period of time, and everybody always starts off with being in a situation where they want to get into Tommy's wisdom and his knowledge and what's helped him grow. But I want to kind of do things a little bit differently today, kind of shift things up just so people can understand. Obviously gave a little background, and we'll talk a little bit more about how the company's come about, where its growth has been, the big, hairy, audacious goal of what you have with the B word. We'll come back to that. But just a little bit about who Tommy Mello is. So I want to ask some random fast fire questions at you, rapid type of speed dating that people get to find out who Tommy Mello is.
Okay. Yeah.
All right. So if you could sit down with one person to have dinner with, anybody you want, who are you having dinner with?
I thought a lot about this one. This was a tough one because I'm not saying they could be dead because, of course, like my grandma and stuff, but I really like Elon Musk. I think it's amazing what he's done and his passion. I'm very passionate about space. So SpaceX, everything, Richard Branson, I'm fascinated. I think that's so much. I think that's what I'm here on earth to do. Garage Doors is getting me to that next level, but that's who I'd sit down with.
Interesting. Well, you'd be sitting down with now the richest person in the world. I think Elon moved to number one. I think
Elon was
past Bezos.
Elon was in the top 5. He jumped up lately, but it's still
It's still Bezos.
Bezos. Yeah,
All right.
you're right. It was close.
If you weren't in the garage door business, which I think that's more of a widget for what you do, I think you're in the sales and marketing, and we're going to kind of get into that. What would have been your profession that you would have chose? Would it have been an astronaut based on what you just said about space, or is there something else you would have done?
So there's a couple answers to this question. Number one, I think so. When I was a kid, I wanted to be an electrical engineer. I love engineering. Number two, I decided in 7th grade I wanted to be an orthodontist because I always said, people would ask me, why an orthodontist? I said, I love working with kids, and no one loves to work. Except now I do love to work, but I always said, whether you're a professional golfer, whatever it might be, it becomes a job after. You got to wake up and hit 1,000 balls every day. So I said, why not do the least amount of work for the most amount of money, enjoy my leisure time, and get to work with kids? But I really thought about this question in the context of home service because I'm in the garage door industry. And if I could go back, I think I would go into roofing or windows or possibly HVAC because the ticket is so much bigger. I service 9,000 customers a month to be, right near, 50 to 100 million. And it's like, if I was serving 9,000 customers a month in any other industry, I'd be a bazillionaire. So I know how to get the customers. I just wish I get a bigger average ticket. And, but yeah, there's a lot of things I'd like to be. But I didn't see it in that context when you asked it.
All right. Any high school senior superlatives that you were named?
So I was homecoming king. I was the vice president of our class, and I was.
Were you most likely to start a successful garage door company?
No, I was. Yeah, I was the class clown.
Class clown. Okay.
I was goofy, man. I was in a lot of sports, and it always made people laugh. We always had fun. Just kind of the life of the party, if I could be.
All right. So obviously, you're sitting in your office, and there's about 800 books behind you. And I know I've often heard you say great leaders are great readers. What is the last book you've read and why?
The Visual Sale. And The Visual Sale is by Marcus Sheridan. And Marcus Sheridan came on my podcast quite a while ago, and it's the second book, second book in a row after They Ask You Answer. And the reason why I'm obsessed is what are you doing right now? You're producing content. The new buyers of today's world, they want to know, and it's expected to be 85% in the next year of all content online will be through video. You saw TikTok going crazy, yep. Instagram, YouTube, you name it. It is the world we live in, and we'd much rather watch a video than read a long paragraph of why you're the best garage door company. So I'm obsessed in the cutting edge. I'm obsessed in learning the buying habits and learning personality profiles. And this book is spot on. I'm hiring a second videographer. I'm hiring 2 full-time content writers. I'm bringing on someone I've already brought on for social media, and I'm bringing on a content strategist. This is going to cost me just under $1 million a year. And there's 20 of us, and I could pull up the list right now to show you the internal writers. We're going to be doing interviews all day long. I'm going to take out 2 hours of my day just to do content. And we are going to be, no one can touch us. I'm telling you right now, it's ridiculous because everybody says I like to do that. I don't have the money, and I love those people because they're my competitors. So that's why I'm reading the book, and that's why I read books, and that's why when I came home from Las Vegas, we just bought a company this week. This is what was on my desk. I got to get it sorted out. But
now, how long will it take you to get through that?
Well, let me show you one other thing. I'm not going to go through from cover to cover each and every book, but I can tell you that I will read most of those books from cover to cover. And when you look at, I do a lot on Audible. I don't know.
Yeah, definitely.
And then like, here's what I do to a book. I write in it and I put all the page numbers, and then I go through and write a summary of what I took out of the book. And part of me growing my network is my Facebook group. And what I'm going to start doing is after I write my summary of the book, I'm going to start going through on my Facebook pages and doing lives on everything I took out of the book and why, and what I'm going to do to use it. And what's cool is I'm making the trends. I'm setting the trends. I've had people, and this is not being cocky whatsoever, but they follow because I put it all out there. And people are like, why do you put everything out there? I'm like, look, you can put everything out there. There's a percent of a percent of a percent will actually take something to do something with it, and it'll improve our industry when they do. So, I'm not afraid of any of my competition. If anything, I'm honored that they're afraid of me, but I want to work in harmony with them. So
it's interesting you say that, because I don't look at it as a cockiness, because there's a lot of the same similarities and traits in our organization as that, and just in having conversations with you, it's a confidence. Confidence is determined as belief equals mastery. And when you have that belief of the things that you do and you've mastered that, it's kind of like you're in the Matrix, just watching you go through the entity of being able to watch the bullets and dodge out of the way and watch the punches come. And you just make it through each and every day. It's a great transitional point for me. You went from 50K in debt. I'd like you to talk a little bit about that, to 55 million that you're potentially maybe even 75 this particular year through acquisition growth on the way to 100. Where do you see A1 in the next 10 years as far as where you're looking to go?
You said earlier, the big, hairy, audacious goal, the BHAG. Look, we're going to be $1 billion company, and I can show you on my whiteboard. I took everybody here, and you start with the end in mind. So we'll just use $1 billion. A billion's a big word for a lot of people, but we're actually borrowing 1.9 trillion this week. So you're going to see $1 billion become a lot less mentally crazy. So $1 billion. So if I had a guy doing 500K, I would need 2,000 technicians. Now, if I could raise that average ticket, get everything up to $1 million per producer, I only need 1,000. But what would I need for 2,000 technicians? Well, let's see here. If I built a recruiting center and I was able to get 50 good technicians per month, and then I had somewhere around a 20% fallout. So we'll just say we'll give up November and December. So we got 10 months times 50. That's 500. What's 500? How many years do I need to get to 2,000? I'll give you a clue.
4.
So 4 right there puts me at $1 billion, and that's without any buying as a platform company and putting people underneath me, acquisitions. So you start stacking this up, and people go, well, you can't do that. You would need so many leads. I got more leads than we know what to do with. So my brain is shift completely on its head. And I said, how do I get the top producers that'll stick with me for this journey? How do I market to A+ players that don't need to be babysat all the time? Because to get 50 amazing people a month, I just hired a corporate trainer and I'm really happy, and she's making a really good salary to work for me, and I think she's going to be worth her weight in gold. Literally, her name's Elisa, and I'll tell you this: we're bringing on all the people that I need to be $1 billion company, and literally, I don't go to sleep at night. I go, okay, and I got this stuff, and it's a big maze in my mind of this, and I write it all down, and I say, okay, we only had 27 people this training class, so somewhere in lines, I'm gonna have to hit 70 to make up for that. And it might not be this year. Maybe I'll just average 40 this year, 43 the next year, 52, and then 60. But regardless, and that's without acquisition. So literally, I think I have a $3.2 billion company within the next 5 years. And people say it's not that easy, blah, 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 blah. The thing is, they always tell themselves why they can't. Imagine if they sat around and tell themselves all day why they can. They all have self-disbelief. They all say it's not possible. No one's ever done it. You have no idea. You're not that. You have no idea what it's like to be a CEO of a $1 billion company. And you're right, I don't. But I've talked to a lot of smart people, and I know that down the lines, my future self 2 years from now will have read hundreds of books. He'll have met a bunch of CEOs that have ran multi-billion-dollar companies. So the people that say I can't do it, don't tell me what I can't do. Look in the mirror and tell yourself what you can't do. But I know what I can do.
Yeah, it's interesting that you say that, because I met a guy probably not too long ago that he told me about his journey, and he's probably in the same realm, about 75 to $100 million company. And one of the things that he said was, well, when we were a $3 million company, we said we wanted to be 5 million. So I didn't hang out with people that were doing 3 million. I was hanging out with people that were doing 7, 8, 9 million, to understand what their mentality was. When I got to 7, 8, 9 million, I started hanging out with 10 to 20 million. Then I got to the point where I was doing 75 million. There aren't a tremendous amount of people in this industry of the home service business that are doing 100 million plus. So then you have to start to look to where that next entity is. It might be outside of this particular aspect of industry. And, I'm going into Fortune 500 companies, as he said, because the next growth is going to be outside of where I currently am at. With having those revenue goals, look, there's only 24 hours a day, and I think you go 20, as far as where it goes. That means you have to put great leadership around you to ascertain where your goals are, as far as hitting that 3.2 billion in 10 years. What are the things that you're looking at and building a leadership system that's going to help you continue to grow? What are the attributes, the traits that make great leadership in your eyes?
Number one for me is I need integrators. I don't need another visionary. I don't need another Tommy. A lot of owners need a visionary. They need a leader to come in. I am the so far to one side of a visionary. I need people that can live day by day. I'll make the leads happen. I'll figure out the recruits. I'll be the cheerleader. But also, I don't want to have to be here. And the reason why is because if you pull me out, I want the company to exist. That's Jack Welch, built to last. So Jim Collins wrote it, but he talks about Jack Welch and GE. So I want to challenge my company all the time by leaving for a month. And that's not because it's great and it's healthy for me, but it's also to prove that we could coexist without me, or I should say exist without me. But I look for people.
Can you shut it down when you leave for a month?
I've got several other things I'm working on. The podcast is healthy for me. I'm working on some other stuff in real estate, and I don't shut it down. But what I do is I get more in the visionary state. I start going, I got to get out of the day to day. And I sometimes got to wait, close my eyes and say, what's the big picture here? Because there's so many things we're working on. And I hate day to day. I'm 10 years down the road. But ultimately, you got to sometimes sit down and meditate and say, what's it all for? And it's good and dandy right now. I'm having fun until you wake up and something's not the same, whether that's mom or dad or family members or your friends, or you wake up one day and you're 65 or 80 or 100, whatever it might be, or, you're paralyzed, or just I always say, enjoy the journey. So shutting it down to a certain extent means getting out of the day to day, although the grind is fun. Today going to visit that builder, he goes, dude, I can't believe you're here. He goes, I've never met you before, but I see you everywhere. I go, well, you're an important account to us, and I want to take you out to dinner. This is the only way. He goes, the fact that you met up, whatever has gone wrong, the fact that I have your cell phone number now means enough. He just didn't understand. And I'm like, look, I'm busy, but my calendar is, I live and die and breathe by it. And my assistant, she just said, your schedule's packed every week. And I said, well, I want you to make more time for my projects. And she's like, but you always say stuff's important. And I'm like, I know, sometimes you got to stand up to me, but I'm so productive during a day, and there's so much I get done. And I'll tell one quick story real quick. I was out with this brand new guy. His first day, he did 20,000, then he did 10,000, then he did 15,000, and he's selling really, really high end doors. And he said, Tommy, he's got all these ideas. And I said, look, we're not going to stop growing, because that's the last thing. I can't get time back. Google everything. I can't go back and build relationships. I need today to start. I said, so we're not slowing down. I said, number two, I got to think about the marketing, the hiring, the operations, the inventory. There's all these different things that kind of exist in my mind, bigger things than others. But I said, I watched something, Jack Nicklaus, 1985, Pebble Beach, 17th hole, 1 iron. Hole is 223 yards. Pew, straight up. He hits the 1 iron higher than anybody. Hits the pin 2 feet, held on to the lead 1. He was in an interview and he said, look, most people in contention could focus on one thing in their swing. I think about 6. I took the club in too steep and I self-corrected. I think about 6 things at all times in my swing. And the reason I told him that is every time I make a decision, there's 6 other things going in my mind. What will this contradict this? How is this going to affect this? What's this going to do for this? How is this helping the big picture? And to be able to do that is special. And it's more than likely because I've been able to channel my ADD somewhat. Some would say not. But I could actually think about a lot of things at once and channel it into one thing and focus. So I think that's, you asked about leadership. I'm trying to most of all find people that can be around me, because that in itself is a difficult task.
Is that because people can't have as high expectations for themselves as you do, and that challenges you with the people around you? Or is it that you just can't find the right people at this point in time?
I've got all the right people around. I think that I've learned how to delegate a lot better. I think one of the things that people get to know me, and I'll go talk to someone new, and they're in the room, and they're like, the new people, and I write this stuff on the board, and I make down a little sheet, and I'm like, you're gonna get an email, and Bree will be in there, or Adam, and they'll be like, let me completely translate what just happened to you. And we'll make sure, but one day you'll be able to speak Tommy Mello. But right now, we are helping you learn his language, because I'm not going to sit there and go, here you go, Bill. Here's a little spoon. I have people around me to help me slow down and explain things to a certain way and delegate properly. But I can't go like this. This to me, when I read a book and I read it at the normal speed, I'm like, F my life. I cannot do this. I can't even listen to it. I'm like, this is like grandma telling me a bedtime story. I can't do it.
Well,
so.
It's funny you say that, because the internal people that are going to watch this, not the external, they're saying right now to themselves, oh my God, this is our CEO, Lance, because sometimes his mind moves so fast when he's sending a text, you can't understand what the language in the text is. But after you go to the master's school of Lance text, you know what's coming in, and you interpret between the lines of what the text says to get you where you go. And I think that's true with any entrepreneur, is that you have to know where their mind is heading, and I understand you have to look. It's very similar to wrestling. I wrestled growing up, going through high school. Wrestling is all about counters to counters to counters. And if I do this, he's going to do that. Just like in business or in sales and marketing. If I do this, there should be a cause and effect that happens with that. And if this happens, how do I pivot? The biggest mistake that I see, and I'm kind of going off track here a little bit, is
Sure.
that people are afraid to make decisions. They're afraid to make marketing decisions because it might not work. Well, how do you know it's going to work if you don't try?
Oh, shit. Well, look, Bill, the other day I threw out a campaign. It's a door-to-door campaign. It's not going as good as I would like. We might not carry on with it, door-to-door knocking. And, people are looking at me like, you're the guru. Why isn't this working? And I said, look, I can make this work. But I said, you don't make any of the shots you don't take. And I miss a lot. The thing is, I don't miss the same shot twice. You tell me where it's from, I'll nail that shot the next time. But, the thing is, look, I'm ready to go. The one thing you got to say as an entrepreneur is I don't have time to sit. Everybody wants perfect. I want progress, not perfection. I'm like, you're never going to be right to start this. If you wanted everything to be right before we grow, if I slow down, like everybody wishes, Tommy, slow down, we're going so fast. The minute I slow down, everybody slows down. We're going at the same speed. You slow down, and then everybody goes, God, we get a break now. And then it's the same thing. Then they're going, well, can we slow down more? Can we slow down more? Because we just finally got a break. No, look, we're going to be the biggest badass company. I told you what you're getting yourself into. If you don't like it, my competitors are looking for a great worker like you, because I don't have time for it.
Listen, I hear you. So let me reverse back for 1 second.
Yeah.
When you're looking at those leadership traits of people to come on board, because if you're gonna grow, 20x from where you currently are. And this isn't any different from the guy that's going to go from 2 million to 10 million. You still have to have great leaders around you. What are the traits that you look for?
Well, okay, for example, yesterday, I was out with a guy and he said, Tommy, he's the guy that's killing it in sales. And I had another conversation with another guy the week before. And if we're talking about leadership, the best thing I can tell you is what's right fresh in my mind. Is he said, where do you see me in the future? And I said, I want to get to know you more. I want to have a dinner like this every single month, once a month. Next time I want you to bring your wife. And I said, I want to sit down and I want to understand where you're best going to be fit in the leadership role. I've got boxes. Okay. I'm not going to build a box around him, but there'll be a box. And I said, there's a couple opportunities for you. But I said, first demonstrate that you could teach. You got to be able to teach. You got to be able to sit one-on-one. And I think, you talk about what I'm looking for. It's everywhere. But I'd say one of the things are I need somebody that's competitive around me in every single leadership aspect. I need them to understand we are going to have first and last place. We are building a scorecard for every single position, and it's an important scorecard. And you've got to be able to relay this scorecard to your team and be convincing. And we need to hire developers as leaders. My goal is to develop leaders from my leadership. So to find the next leaders, my goal is not to expect to hire leaders, but to develop them into leaders. So for example, when we have one-on-ones, we want them to come in and lead us. They literally bring a form in. I don't have one right on my desk, but they bring on a form. I learned this from Jack Tesser, and they come in and they literally give a presentation. Did they finish what they needed to last week? Did they hit their deadlines? What could they have done better? And they present, and then they start taking on steps of delegation. So in a way, I'm teaching them to inspect what you expect, to manage. I love guys that go ahead and they figure it out. They do what you're asking someone else to do. I go to the bathroom. I got my own bathroom. I use the other bathroom. I don't care. I clean up more than anybody. Shoot, I'm literally, I try to cook as much as I can for everybody, and it's not every week. But there's nothing I would ask. I take out the garbage. Look, there's nothing, and that's going to happen till the day I die. I'll never ask somebody to do something I wouldn't do. I don't care who it is. And that's the good thing about a leader is. And another thing is when this whole pandemic happened, I cut my pay to zero for the first 4 months because we didn't know what was going to happen. And I frankly don't need the money. And that's not being cocky. That's just where it is. So I said, what do you, and he said, boom, he cut off his entire bonus structure. I had a bunch of people come to me and they said, Tommy, we have some savings. Could we cut our pay in half? And I was like, guys, the fact that you did that is amazing. We're not there yet. I was like, if there's tanks in the road here in the next month, I might talk about that. We don't know what's going to happen. This is before PPP or anything happened. But a great leader to me is someone that develops others. It's about, and there's great communication skills. They could say you did a great job 3 more times than they said you did a crappy job. It's so easy to hear how much better you can improve. It's so much different to watch the good things you're doing and say, look, you made progress. Progress is great. A couple other areas we need to work on, but you know what? If you got a will, I'm going to find you a way, Bill. And I will work really, really hard with you. I want to get to know your wife, your kids. I want to know your goals. It sounds like you want to take your wife on a second honeymoon. I'm going to work really hard to make sure you have the best life outside of work, because together we could have a great life within work if we could do that together.
It's powerful. It's powerful that you, in 17, I think it's 17 states now, that you take that approach, not to just what happens in Phoenix, but what happens in Salt Lake City, Las Vegas, wherever you go, and understanding the importance of that aspect. It's funny when you mentioned Jack. I once heard from a Nexstar colleague, Keith Mercurio. He gave the bit of advice: a bad one-on-one is better than no one-on-one. And the importance of being able to, and I always say to the team that I directly work with on the sales side and the client relations side, is to say, look, that one-on-one is just as much for me as it is for you. And if you don't have an agenda to what comes to that one-on-one of not making it valuable to you, then what's the purpose of having the one-on-one? It's not just for me. I can't want things more than you want. So what's the kind of structure that you guys put into your one-on-ones?
So we've got a tentative scorecard, but I'm perfecting the scorecard. I've got them right here. I want to just bring one up. I'll just kind of tell you, we look at sales is important. I'm sorry. It's funny. It just off subject, super quick, but I bring in this thing that for tithing, you pass around the plate.
Yep.
Yeah. So I pass it around during orientation to everybody, and I was like, "Go ahead, I want you to give." And they're like, "What is this all about?" And I start laughing, and I'm like, "Look, if the priest and the preachers could talk about tithing for the first 10 minutes in sales, I'm allowed to talk about sales. So don't get used to me now talking about sales." So sales is important. This is my technician scorecard. Club memberships, the reviews, and we've got a way to track every single review. We've got great attribution. Cleanliness of van and inventory accuracy. We've got a driving scorecard that's built into this. Tech air report, attendance and off hours, finance jobs, self-promoted leads. All these are built into 1,000 points. And basically, it's almost like your kid bringing home their report card. But I'm giving you more. I'm giving you their tardiness. I'm giving you their homework they turned in, their quiz scores versus their test scores. I'm giving you how they do what with others. So now when you go look at the scorecard tells you everything. It literally says you're not selling financing. You're not doing door sales. You're great on service calls. You have a hard time from going from service to sales. Your attendance on the weekends is crap. You're not taking any late shifts. You're on call, you're failing. Your driving is a 3, it needs to be a 5, and that's very dangerous. There's all these things. And then we started doing a lot of Survey Monkey. So to know what it's like from other people. We just got the field supervisors back. So the one-on-one says, here's how you're betrayed. Like, let me just tell you, we got a guy named Daniel. So I said, Daniel, here's the thing I love. Let's go through some of these. And this is what I need more of. But let me tell you some things that kind of scare me. This is scary for me. And let me tell you why. And I want to know, what do you think we could do to not have this perceived person that you're perceived? Now, I know you've got a good heart, but we've got to realize how people perceive us. And number one, you understand they're not as fast as you at some of this, right?
Right.
So here's what I want to do. We're going to talk about only the carrot. And then right at the end, the stick comes up as, look, if we don't make any improvements, there's going to be some type of action. And here's why. It's because I care just as much about everybody else that works here as I do for you and your family. And it's not right or fair for me to allow for this to happen if it keeps going down this. So I need you to make a constant effort for me. And rather than wait till our next one-on-one, we're going to have a couple pop-in times. And I'm going to check on this and this. And I'm going to go ahead and sign off on this, saying everything that I said I'm going to do for you. All I want is to put a couple lines on here saying what you're going to do for me. I just need a couple initials in your John Hancock. Does that sound fair? And now what's going to happen is when you sign something, that's a contract now. I never call it a contract. Tom Hopkins never called it a contract.
Right.
We call it an agreement, but now you're going to do it. This works almost every time, but that's examples. Is I believe every single department should have a scorecard. And you know what? You should have good turnover too. Jack Welch got rid of the bottom 10%. Steve Jobs got rid of the bottom 10%. People did not feel tenured. I hate that word, tenure. I've earned it. I worked hard for 5 years. Now I should be on Social Security. I understand all people that can't work, and that's a bad example. But it's just I just hate that word. So that's a little bit about what I do. Is you go over their report card and you say, what, and here's the biggest thing. Instead of thinking as a manager, what's in it for me in the company and how do I get promoted, to say, what's in it for you? If you could start thinking in your head, why would you want this? What does this do for you? I know your personal goals. I know this. If you could shift it on its butt and say, this is about you. This is going to benefit you, your wife, your family, everybody around you. Then you make it worth it for them. And you got to be a good leader to be able to communicate that, because some people see the worst in everybody. And I think it's a dirty shame.
It truly is. One of the things that I know, and I've heard you talk about it, is the importance of an individual in your life that's helped you. I was hoping you could share with the audience a little bit about Michael Gerber and how E-Myths, how that book kind of helped you and shaping who you are today and the way that you run your business.
So when I first got into business, 2006, 2007, I was handed the book, and Aaron Evans, my CPA, who I was way small, it was tiny client. And now he's only got like 10 clients. He handed me the book and he said, you got to read this, because if you're going to own a business, and basically the moral of the story is the cliche is work on it, not in it. And he gives all the examples. Most of the time you've got the entrepreneur, you've got the manager, and then you've got the worker. And most of us are all stuck in this work environment. We're good at installing garage doors. I was the best in service. I used to time myself every time I do a spring job. And man, I was competitive, and I'm like, yes. But, now I look back, and if I could have slapped myself in the face in 2008, I'd slapped myself pretty hard and said, forget this, forget the widget, forget the garage, forget this. Think about what needs to happen. When I diagnose a person's business, first thing I say is, what's your goal this year of revenue? And then they tell me their goal, and I say, okay, what's your average ticket? $450, whatever. Then I say, when you're face to face with the customer, what's your conversion rate? Oh, you're not tracking that. Okay. But then I figured out it's 27%. Okay, what's your booking rate? And this is all your form fills, Yelp, Angelus, Home Advisor, everything online, plus your booking rate. Okay, it's 67%. What does it cost for you to acquire a customer per source? And we'll do this whole thing and go through it. And then I just figure out where the biggest holes in their business are. But that brain, that mind is the entrepreneur side of things, saying, let's go find the biggest hole in your boat. See, some people have a big hole in their boat and it's sinking. They should not be speeding, because speeding just makes that thing get filled up faster. So sometimes you do got to stop and smell the roses and patch the holes. But a lot of times you're just small holes. And if you're still going fast, you find the biggest hole, you move on to the next one. And you're never going to, I've never seen a company without anything. You look at Amazon. The culture there is a 1 out of 10. But they're still growing, and they're doing whatever they can because they can afford to. So Michael Gerber just kind of figured out in the 70s that if you sit back and you look at everything and you start thinking about systems, standard operating procedures, manuals, checklists, if you don't, the first mistake, shame on me. Same mistake, shame on you, shame on me type thing. Fool me ain't gonna fool me again, right? But, I was thinking about it, and I'm like, he's totally right. Every single thing that there's a problem with, I go back and I go, show me the manual, show me the checklist, show me where in the process that this got, because the definition of insanity is continuing to make these same damn mistakes. So where in this, and there's certain things like we measure the wrong doors. How do we measure the wrong doors? Well, do we get a photograph of the measure, of a tape measure, or a video of it being done? And when everybody says, well, that's not possible, it's too much work, you only have one, blah, 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 blah. Everything I hear is a reason why someone can't succeed. So many people tell me, I'm like, if you can't figure out how to log in on your phone and take a video of our CRM, then you probably shouldn't work here. And if you're too lazy to ask the customer to help, because I would say, look, Mr. Customer, I'm about to make you a garage door technician. What do you say? Oh, yeah, I can help, Tom. I'll help you. And literally, well, they don't, we shouldn't have them touch it, COVID. Whatever excuse you have, the weather, the time of year. Today, I had a big leadership meeting every Thursday, and I said, certain guys, you need to be competitive, and everybody's on the list. 150 techs. And I said, when there's a point of no return, and I don't know where it's at. It might be 80, it might be 100. It's different in everybody's head. But once they hit that and they keep moving down every month, you know what it turns into? Everybody else's problem but theirs. It's the call center, it's the dispatcher, it's the leads. It's the leads. The leads aren't good. It's everything else. It's the weather. It's everything but you. It's A1, it's the customer, it's the van, it's the traffic. It's because you don't know what else to do and you don't want to be held liable. You don't want to take the ownership of how crappy your results are every single week, that you're getting ready to betray yourself and quit or get fired because you don't know how to help yourself. And I said, guys, if this is you every single week, I've got an answer. And if you guys buy into it like I do, you're going to get better. And there's no wrong answer here, except the wrong answer is continuing to not take self-ownership. And if you take ownership and you want this, I'll give it to you. Do I have your attention? Guys, do you want more? Because if you don't, you're more than welcome to work for my competitors. And you tell them every secret you learned here. You go tell them our whole playbook. I don't care. I'm not going to make that NDA and not compete. You go do what you need to do. Because I could give two craps if you tell them every single thing I'm doing, because they can't have a meeting like this.
It's interesting is that Lance, you know, as far as our company, he often says that exact same thing, that people make excuses for their own failures each and every day. And the only way that you're going to, if I step on the scale, and I've been trying to lose 30 pounds this whole last year. Well, when I went to McDonald's at lunch, guess what? That didn't help me, even though that I rode the Peloton the night before and did 13 miles. I have to be accountable to my actions that allow me to do what I'm going to do. And you're just as much, and we talk about here, as being intelligently and emotionally intelligent and smart, we have to be mentally smart and sharp as far as from a physical standpoint. So literally he puts us to making sure we're working out and doing the things that are going to keep us healthy so that we can work with our teams and making sure where we're going to go. It's interesting is that, you know, I see you on social all the time. When you started the business, 2006, 2007, Facebook was sitting at Harvard in Zuckerberg's dorm. And now it is an essential part of your business. Tell the audience a little bit about how social video has kind of affected what you're doing and where you're going.
Well, I'll tell you, it's not just social media is becoming a monster, and people are going more than ever online to look from a friend of a friend, and they're trying to get suggestions. And there's no better way. You know, one of my buddies, his name's Sean, For Energy is a company he owns. He asked me for this black on black full view, and he knows a lot of people. He's an influencer, definitely in this town. And he posted a before and after, and I sold 7 of those the next week. He posted the picture, and people are like, that is freaking amazing. And so we just got done building some software that pulls all the before and afters and puts them together in our CRM. It pulls them out of it. And, you know, I was just writing a script yesterday for exactly what the installers need to do. Pan in, pan out, set the camera up here, do this, to where we could load it directly into an automated video that actually makes it a certain way. And I'm trying to figure out steps, the process to make this so simple. So I went on Amazon and I bought all these things for the guys and these cameras that pan in and out. They use their phones. And the deal is people say my workers won't do that. And I say, no. You underestimate the power of a system. What's in it for them? Well, you know, I've got all these ways to know that it came from them. The leads came from them. And if I teach them how to do this, you can't just expect somebody to do something all the time and keep adding to them and then say, this doesn't benefit me. And you know what most owners say? Well, they're working, aren't they? Well, these guys are working at least. I'm like, you're a selfish asshole, first of all. Like, why not give them a little bit? Why not? You know, I have a saying, you know, when I make a buck, if they make 10 cents, who cares? And I'm talking bottom funnel, bottom like net. You know, and the deal is once you become that good version that gives back, you share a little bit, it grows so much freaking faster. These small people that say that, most of these small-minded people, they're like, yeah, I don't, blah, 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 blah. My workers don't do shit. You know, I'm like, yeah, that's why you got 3 of them. you know, and that's why you don't hold on to them.
So here's, obviously it's a situation we're in unprecedented times. We've just gone through a pandemic. We got a change in administration. Not that I want to get political. What we could, and I know where you would go, but we're going to leave it off for another.
I got my big boy pants on. I did go, real quick, Paul. I made one comment this morning, political comment. I said there was inauguration yesterday. I said, now you guys understand we did a price increase today, not based on the inauguration, but we did a price increase based on all of our vendors raising our prices 5% across the board, every single one of them. Metal's going up. And they said, yeah, we understand. And I said, so we've got to raise our prices because it's called inflation. I need to raise my prices because they raise their prices. And therefore the prices got to go up. And I said, what happens if minimum wage goes to $15 on a federal level? I said, we're going to be raising our prices 10% again, bare minimum, because that means raises across the board. You see, that means when you pay for a burger, you're going to be paying $17 instead of $9. People don't understand this stuff. And they say, raise the price. It just makes it harder for a high school to get a job. I mean, look, I just got to tell you that the people that don't know how to talk about economics never owned a business. I've been an employee for a long, long time. I've worked for other people. I know what it's like. And I think there's a lot of rules that exist for a really strong reason to protect employees. And I agree with them. But at the same time, don't lecture me ever on how to run a business if you've never ran one, if you don't know what it's like putting food on the plates of 100 people or 1,000 people, because normally each person's feeding 3 to 4 people. So you think about that. Don't lecture me on anything that you've done if you've never done it. That's what I don't like, is the peanut gallery saying, ooh, ooh, ooh. Most businesses fail. The large percentage of businesses fail. And the fact is, if it's a failed business, not to mention the relationships, the late nights, the sacrifices, people just see this line going like this, but it comes with a lot of potholes and divots and crazy, wells. And it bothers me when you see these people lecture you. And I'm like, what have you done? Now, either way, right or left, if you got a great conversation, I want to talk to you because I love talking to educated people that have walked the walk.
I think it's sometimes about understanding where I might be wrong in my thinking and being challenged because I think I'm right, to be proven wrong in what I understand and what my beliefs and what I have. So I mean, I know it's funny. I told Casey when we were planning this, I said, I think I could probably have this conversation with Tommy for about 4 hours.
Yeah.
We try to limit it because we know the importance of your time and how valuable it is, and you've been more than generous.
I've got, if you want to go 5-10 minutes, I made an extra half hour. So whatever you think.
With our audience. I have 2 final questions for you. And they're both directed. One is about you, and then the other would be back to our audience. The first one is, what keeps you up at night?
So I don't really love that question in sales. I recommend don't using it, but I'll tell you what keeps me up at night is it's always good stuff. It's always the dream. It's never the nightmare. It's never, are we insured properly? Is this, that? I mean, there's certain things I try, and I do have a conscience of certain things. And the Bible, and I don't go to church every Sunday, but the Bible says if you ignore your conscience, it goes away. And I think that's true. So the conscience steps in every now and then to make sure and look at stuff. But normally I'm dreaming of like crazy ideas and thinking. It's more of the dream that keeps me up and the vision than the bad stuff. So it's fun. It's fun staying up at night because I'm probably like this in bed, just smiling, wondering what's next and how are we going to grow.
Second question, final question. Then we have a thing that I told you about. It's called the final roar, where you get to kind of give your own take on what you want somebody to take out of this time. As it applies, what would Tommy today go back and tell Tommy when he was doing $1 million in revenue?
First thing I would do is I would give him a stack of books and say, here's what I need you to take out of this book, probably 5 books. Next thing I do is there's master the art of delegation. I'd have to have a serious conversation with him, and I'd have to tell him everything that he thought he knew he doesn't know. To be a learner for life, have 2 ears, 1 mouth, because even when I was younger, I used to be a little overconfident, which gets me through the hard times too. But I would say, look, and I even think that if I 5 years from now, I was talking to myself, I'd go, you might think it's a distraction to leave your biggest baby right now, that you've got all these projects going on, but it's so much better to step out of it and go learn and go be around somebody and go learn how to finish the projects and step away from the mess. It seems like a mess. There's a lot of amazing things, but go away and come back with this fresh. I would say take an extra day off. I would say enjoy the journey a little bit more like I am now. And obviously I would have said, don't borrow from this guy. Don't trust that guy. Don't do this from that guy. Probably have me stay away from a few guys, but yeah.
So like I said, we have the last thing is that, and I know you do this in your podcast all the time, is you get to give people advice. And so the final roar is yours. What would you want to give back to our audience as wisdom and knowledge in less than a minute?
Less than a minute. Okay. Number 1, real quick. Master your marketing. Find the biggest one, go after it. Inspect what you expect. Know your numbers. Know what each marketing source is doing. Number 2, spend most of your time figuring out how to get great talent. An A player will run circles around 5 B players. I used to say 1A equals 3B. I believe 1A equals 5B now. Do me a favor. You want to learn about a business, go find the biggest, best business outside of your state and hang out there and bring a notepad. Take as many notes as possible. Tell them you're coming. Go with notes. Have a plan and get out of your comfort zone. Figure out the business you want to become and then emulate it. Start from the last. Hit the X. This is the finish line. Create a finish line. Have a plan for it, even though if you might pass it up, and go reverse engineer from last year to last quarter to last month to last week to today what needs to happen. And more than anything, freaking enjoy yourself. You don't have to spend money to make your employees happy. You can you can make pancakes. You could go play Frisbee. You can go take them on a picnic. You can do things for free. Everybody goes to me, I just don't have the money like you. And they don't have the time. If you don't have the money or the time, then you shouldn't be in business. Go become a worker again. But you got to have one of those. Either it's sweat equity or that you're putting money into it. And just tell people you appreciate them along the way. Because you know what? You didn't, and I hate to say this, but it's not all you. You're not, as much as you work, there's other people too that are sacrificing. So enjoy the road and tell them they're doing good, because if you're always going to be that boss that's telling people, you could do a little bit better, think about how many people it takes to run your business when you're not there. Some of us are grateful for it. Some of us aren't, but try to be a little bit more grateful today in your business. Smile a little bit more. When you walk out after you watch this video, tell 3 people how much you love them. Tell them how much they kick ass. They might wonder what kind of drugs you're on, but do something nice. Maybe take somebody to dinner tonight. Maybe learn a person's name you never knew. Maybe go talk to a warehouse guy that you've never talked to before and watch what it does. Their face will go, did I do something wrong? Why did he talk to me?
So here's the last thing I want to tell the audience. They can find the book, The Home Service Millionaire, on Amazon, correct?
Yeah, it's on Amazon and it's on Audible. It's 12 co-authors. It took a couple years to write. Yep.
Okay. And then secondly, your podcast that they can subscribe to, The Home Service Expert. They can find it on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, every other potential.
Yeah, it's on Apple. It's on,
you figure it's probably out there.
Yep, it is. It's everywhere.
All right. Well, listen, I really, truly appreciate your time today. Thanks for being on The Den. And I look forward to continuing to keep up the conversations and have you back again sometime soon.
Hey, thank you. I really had fun. Appreciate it.
All right. Thanks a lot. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this content, please don't forget to follow me at Lance Bachman on Instagram and Twitter. Follow me on Facebook at Lance Bachman Digital. And every Thursday we drop a new podcast. Don't forget to listen to it. We're giving out great content. And remember this is the time to build your business right now. Let's effing go, everybody.